Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rockland Roundtable podcast. I'm Beth Cefalu, the county's Strategic Communications Director.
And I'm Beth's co-host, Jenna Nazario, the Director of Economic Development, Tourism, and Film. And we are very excited to have two wonderful guests here today with us. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Heidi Vandiver. I'm the Director of Operations with the County of Rockland Industrial Development Agency.
And I'm Steve Porath. I'm the Executive Director of the Rockland Industrial Development Agency.
Well, thank you both for coming.
Yes,
we're so happy to have you.
Nice to meet you.
We're so excited to be here.
And obviously, the biggest question people at home might have is, what is the IDA?
Yes.
And what does it do?
Well, that is a good question because I actually have family members that ask that same question. The IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, it's established by New York State statute. So we're an independent entity of the state. And our mission is to do economic development work, to attract businesses to Rockland County, to keep them here, encourage them to expand here. And we do that with a variety of financial tools we have where we structure business deals essentially with these companies to come here and invest, create jobs, and in turn we give them various incentives. That's the short of it. We can go into it as we talk.
So when people hear incentives, sometimes I think they think, oh, you're just handing money out to people, big organizations, big companies,
Tax
and
breaks,
yes,
yeah.
exactly, tax breaks. And so what benefit does that help the Rockland residents? So can you go into a little bit more detail about that and like what the structure is?
Go ahead, Heidi. Why don't you field that one?
We do hear that too, that these are like a gift. And I can assure you these are not a gift. And our projects this time of year, when I am hounding them for all their compliance reports, definitely don't feel like this was a gift. Incentives are basically a scaffolding, right? They are there to help support a project in the construction phase, getting ramped up. And then when that building is sturdy and strong, that scaffolding comes down and that project is now part of the community and adding to the community. So the incentives are temporary, but that investment in the community is permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why they need the incentives in the first place to come here? How competitive is it to get a business to come and choose Rockland County as their home?
So, well, there is the biggest benefit of Rockland County is that our location brings business here, right? A lot of IDAs are luring companies to their area with their incentives. In Rockland, we have something different. In Rockland, companies want to be here, but the reality is we are in an expensive area, right? Local land and construction and supplies are all very expensive here. And so what companies really need is help getting their foot in the door. And that's what our incentives offer. It gets them here, it gets them running, it gets them up off the ground. And the benefit that we have in Rockland is that since they wanted to be here to begin with, when our incentives end, they stay here. And that's not always the case for other areas. Those incentives are what got them there. And then when the incentives run out, they may not want to stay. Mm-hmm. So we really have that benefit in Rockland of our location. We're also right on the thruway corridor. We have a highly educated workforce. 40% of our adult population holds bachelor degrees or more. And we have a very strong infrastructure in Rockland. So we're very desirable. So we really, Steve and I don't have to do a lot of selling of Rockland.
Okay, just hounding.
Just hounding.
Just hounding. Got
Just
it.
hounding.
Okay,
And
yeah.
maybe I can add on to that a little bit. The greater metro region is a very expensive area of the country, let alone this immediate area. And it is competitive. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that we do find companies that have a business need to be in the greater metro area. They're looking at Westchester. They're looking at northern Jersey. They're looking at Rockland. Of course, they're looking out at Long Island and in the city itself. So with that competition, incentives are a way of leveling the playing field somewhat so that we are those items that Heidi pointed out as far as the attractive elements of Rockland County. But the IDA, probably even more importantly, the incentives we provide are a tool to not to just give a corporate handout, but to actually shape the kind of business environment we want. Mm-hmm. So we're attracting, we want to be proactive about that, not just reactive to who comes here. We want to proactively reach out and have companies that have the kind of economic development, the type of business that we want to see in Rockland County. And we work with our communities, local communities, to encourage that interaction, to work together to bring those businesses here and keep them here.
That was a great segue to my next question. So what is the partnership that goes into it? Like, who are you collaborating with? How are the decisions made if these businesses do come because of the impact it's going to have on the community that it settles in?
Sure. Maybe the partnership is actually manifold. It's our partners, just to rattle off a quick list, are like New York State's Economic Development Agency is often involved. Your office is often involved as well. It's the IDA, it's the business community, it's the banking community, it's the real estate community. All of these have a piece in selling Rockland and closing deals. We're one piece of that. And again, our incentives, and I'll go back to that earlier question, our incentives are not really a handout. They're not it's not corporate welfare. It's actually in the form of tax exemptions, tax abatements that give short-term reductions to encourage that investment. And when we do that business deal, and with our partners are very similar in this, the state works on the same formulas. For every dollar in a tax exemption we're giving, we are getting many-fold back over the time with that company between the taxes they're paying. I use the term economic churn they create with the employees and the money the employees spend. So it's a business deal when it's all said and done. And all these elements I talked about are partners in that.
I think that's a really good point to bring up because, again, residents will say, tax incentives, tax breaks, what benefit does it have to us? And you work with the schools as well, right? You work with the schools,
Yes.
You work with the town and village. So it really is a collective, thought out process when you finally make that determination. And oftentimes, I think people don't realize that it's already happened multiple times here in the county. They don't see it, but they benefit from it. So what actually is kind of the financial benefit, just like from last year, from the year before? How much has that brought back into the county?
Well, I think over the last 10 years, we're in the like $2 billion.
I'd say in the last 10 years, it's been probably $5 to $8 billion, and that's a big gap,
Wow.
Because of how you count it, of new investment in the community, thousands of jobs, thousands of construction jobs.
In the last couple of years, though, it's a significant portion of that.
Yeah.
$2 billion, many jobs. And when we talk about jobs and we're evaluating these projects, we're not just talking about the primary jobs that business is going to create, but those construction jobs that are coming in, those long-term maintenance jobs that are going to be created, and then those tertiary jobs that happen in the community. So that local bagel shop and the deli where everyone's going to be getting their sandwiches for lunch, that's all taken into account when we're looking at the economic benefit of that project.
And people also don't realize, you were talking about how expensive Rockland County is, but this helps offset some of those costs. And people often forget that. They'll be against it. There will always be pushback, but they forget that you need to bring more people in to help off-balance that supply and demand.
Yes.
Well, and very much, and that's very, very true. Without a strong commercial industrial base, if communities where they have very little commercial industrial development or presence, the burden, of course, shifts over onto the residents who still have to pick up that tab. So having a vibrant commercial industrial business sector ultimately is good for the homeowner, not just in the form of services and jobs, but also the fact that it's keeping their taxes down. And using a very specific example, school districts. Now, we work closely, as you alluded to just a minute ago, school districts. When we structure property tax abatement programs for the school district, a very misconception, people say, you're giving away tax dollars to businesses. It's costing us. It's coming on to us. In fact, the opposite couldn't be more true here. For example, if you took a vacant piece of property, and I'm going to use easy numbers. The school district is currently getting $1 a year in property taxes from that vacant piece of property. And a new company is going to come in there, and those taxes eventually will be $10, for example. We're structuring a deal to encourage that company to come here by saying, okay, instead of paying $10 right off the bat, you're going to pay $5. And then, which is more than the one, and then from 5 it'll go to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then stay for 10 for up to 20, 25 years, and maybe forever more. So it's really upside. It just all we're doing is negotiating the timing when the community is going to realize the full benefit.
The benefit of it.
Yeah.
I love the idea because it's very unique because you look at the built environment as a whole, right? So you're not just looking at let's put a big business here, let's put a corporation, let's put, whatever we need, some sort of job incentive. But you look at what does that mean for the county itself? how many new families could come here? How many new employees? Does that help our institutions with education and we become a more marketable county in the Hudson Valley, in the region, in the state? So how do we compare in the region? Because I know our Rockland IDA is a pretty successful and special one. So how do we compare when it comes to, other areas in the Hudson Valley? So
We're very proud, and I'll say we're very proud of our accomplishments, and we're humble about it, but we're very proud. And I think we stack up pretty well against, the other areas. And it's not really a competition.
Right.
Listen, we all work together, the Hudson Valley, but and New York as a whole. But I think we're good at what we do, and I think we've been successful. And I don't know how.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rockland, we're small but mighty, right? So
It's
we
true.
have,
That's a great way to put it, to be
economically, we're in that
honest.
upper
Yes, we
third
are.
tier of New York's economy. So we really do a lot with our small space.
that is amazing. So I think we're the smallest county in the state, are we
outside
not?
of
Yes,
New
we
York
are.
Outside of New York City. And we're in the
Correct.
upper tier, third tier.
of
Wow.
gross-
If you
Wow.
see
Yeah.
every year the state puts out annual reports on IDAs and how they stack, and you have New York City, of course, you have Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester. Rockland is right there for being
Yeah.
with 300,000 plus residents. We stack up pretty high.
Yeah, we hold our own. Yeah.
Now,
I love it.
granted, it's not just because of the IDA; it's because of a lot of
It's
factors.
okay. You
we've
can
talked
brush
about.
those shoulders.
Yeah.
You can take some credit.
Bring back the humility a little bit now.
But we
Sure.
have great partners. We work closely with the county executive's office and all 5 town supervisors and the superintendent. And I will say, and we hear this from our projects, that we are a well-oiled machine. And, developers like to work with us, all of us collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you do. You have great working relationships with the partners that you need at the
Yeah.
table. And
Yes.
it's a very thorough evaluation process. It's not just, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's put them here,
Yeah.
So I think everyone should appreciate
Yeah.
the time it takes to get to that final decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really looking at their capital investment, the jobs, that long-term tax base that they're going to increase. A lot goes into it. And of course, these benefits they're very structured. And these companies are agreeing to meet benchmarks. And then we are following up yearly and making sure that they are meeting those goals.
One of the things that I find with Rockland also, every community in the United States says, "Oh, we're business friendly," and none of them are. But I'd like to think that in Rockland, not just the IDA, but Rockland is business savvy, and there's a difference to that in the sense that we understand how businesses need to make decisions, how there has to be a timeliness to that decision, that it can't be filled with 6 to 8 months of just sitting around waiting for an answer from entity, whether there's going to be an approval or you're going to get an incentive. And as a consequence, we can respond quickly to business opportunities, and that has paid dividends many times over. And I've often said, challenge with Rockland is it's small. Limited real estate, it's small, there's not a lot of open space. But it's also a strength because we all know each other. I've said this time and again, I count my blessings quite often that I can pick up the phone, call our county executive on his cell phone, and he either picks up immediately or calls me right back, and I say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. Boom, boom, boom. And, we have a very business-friendly county executive and support staff that's there helping him.
Yeah, Ed absolutely loves the idea. He's always bragging about you guys, always bragging about Steve, loves to hear from Steve. He also realizes how important the idea is. I mean, it's a huge part of what helped our county get so fiscally strong. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
So now, what are some of the trends here in Rockland? So who's coming? Who's coming? Do we have enough space for everyone who wants to come? What are you guys seeing?
Good. Why don't you? Unless you want me to answer that one.
Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the strong points of Rockland is we've been a very diverse community. And that has made us, I don't want to say bulletproof, but a little more resistance to ups and downs in the economy. We weren't dependent on any one industry or any kind of nature. We have a strong healthcare industry. We have a strong manufacturing. We have warehousing and distribution. We have data centers. So that diversity has made us very flexible depending on what's going on in the world out there. As far as trends we're seeing, right now we are seeing a trend of data centers, seeing Rockland County as a good landing spot. And I know data centers can be, there's a lot of discussion out of that, whether those are something you want. But right in Rockland right now, we seem to be doing pretty well with that. Mm-hmm. We're seeing some distribution development along the thruway corridor, particularly servicing the Amazons and of the world. So we're seeing that kind. And of course, we're always seeing healthcare development. Yeah, and probably even, I think our hottest ticket right now is housing.
Man, Steve, why do I even ask questions? You're just going straight into my follow-ups here. Please, go for it.
Do you want to talk about housing or?
Well, housing is obviously a need nationwide, right? And here in Rockland as well. So we're seeing more and more housing developments. We used to really only get involved with affordable housing, but now we're seeing housing at all levels needing a little boost and a lot of developing interest, which I think, for Rockland County, I think we absolutely have a need for transit-oriented development and bringing more community into our downtowns and revitalizing some of our downtowns. It brings more business. I know I live in New City, and my husband and I are enjoying now being empty nesters in Rockland, which I have to highly recommend because if you're still working and you have your weekends free, Rockland
is it. All right, don't rub it in.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
But we are so excited about the plans for some of the development that's proposed for downtown New City because it's going to mean more restaurants. And I know we all like to talk about restaurants.
Yes.
And just more shopping, more nightlife, more entertainment, all the things that we're really looking for where we live. We all want to work and play in our hometowns. Yeah.
And maybe just circling back to, like, say, affordable in housing. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, would we be doing a lot of housing? I'd say, no, that's really not something that we're needed. The world has changed. The financial structure for housing has changed. Be it property taxes, the cost of money, the cost of materials has rendered a lot of market rate housing, let alone affordable housing, hard to do without, the IDA getting involved in there. And we're not the answer to every one of the issues that emerge. But affordable housing, for example, there's a very common misconception that affordable housing is something that is not a desirable element in a community. Affordable housing is simply providing many times blue-collar, working-class people an opportunity to live because this is an expensive area. Market rate housing, the same thing, providing market rate housing at 1- and 2-bedroom type of units where young couples, single professionals can stay here. At one time, you said, why do you have to? It can stand on its own 2 feet as far as being developed, but the financial model for that has gotten a little out of whack right now because, again, cost of money and other elements. So coming in and giving that incentives, but getting the return on that investment by keeping our talent here and keeping all those salaries here that are spending locally is where we get that return on investment, if you wanted to boil it down to that, let alone the human factor of providing a place for people who've grown up here, want to stay here, a place to live.
Well, it's funny because it's all connected because you want to bring businesses here with their employees, and ultimately you would love that they could live here if they're working here.
Yes.
And then they would spend their own money here. And, if there's nowhere for them to live or they can't afford to live, then you're right, you're losing that.
And when we're talking about affordable housing, 80% of the average income in Rockland County, our average income is $110,000 a year. So 80% of that, we're talking about teachers, we're talking about nurses, we're talking about people we need in our community.
Our essential workers.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
many. Yeah.
And going back to the ROI, the return on investment, one of the conversations we have with people a lot is you do spend a lot of money to send your kids, we'll talk families right now, to send your kids to these schools because they're some of the best schools in the country. They get ranked every single year. And then they leave. So you've just spent all that money and you've invested everything into Rockland, and then they can't afford to live here, and they go and they take that investment somewhere else.
Yes.
And then how does that, what is that return for us? Because we've invested so much, we've dedicated our time and our, their youth to here, and they want to stay, but can they stay? So it's nice to hear. Now my question, when businesses come here, Do they ask about housing? Do they ask if there's enough for employees to live here? Like, do you have the market for it? Is that ever like a question that gets brought up when they're looking?
Oh, sure. Those are always things that come into play. They're looking at every element of it. They want to make sure that their employees have a place to live, that they have a place to stay here, that there are other quality of life elements. You know, it is a competitive world out there as far as businesses. And again, Rockland, we have as Heidi said earlier, we are an attractive landing spot. We are a crossroads to the rest of the state. With the proximity to upstate, the Hudson River, New York City, but you've got to think ahead, being us collectively, Rocklanders.
Yeah.
How do we want to shape our community to look like the way we want it to be?
Yeah,
and the IDA is one of those tools.
Yeah. And I think that our local BOCES and Rockland Community College are doing a great job at really becoming a pipeline for workforce, identifying what our local businesses need, and then creating those programs to get those bodies in those
Fill
jobs.
fill those slots.
Yeah, that was always I don't want to say a dream, but always a hope that the business community, the entities like the IDA and others would work closely with the educational system to really team up and say what kind of jobs are coming, what are the trends, as Heidi just mentioned. Yeah. And I think we're starting to really see that now. Rockland Community College, BOCES are just two examples where we're working with them.
We have a great education system here.
To develop and promote programs that prepare our workforce for the type of jobs that are.
And it's a win-win. You know, it's a win-win for the job, and it's a win-win for the person that just went through all that schooling and actually has a job.
We love when we see that full circle of a business coming to us and then getting up and running, and then one of our local students go get a job there. That's like such a great moment for us.
Yeah. That's the proud mom moment, right? So how does the public become more informed of this? You know, because obviously you have your meetings.
Yes.
Well, how do we get them to know more?
The good thing about our process is transparency is built into our system. So all of from the time a project comes and applies to us, all of their documents are on our website. We have public hearings. Our board meetings are open. Anyone can come. They're also live streamed. It's a hot item.
Yeah. I'll be tuning in now.
So we're very transparent. And I would say, you know, what I've learned, and I'm very fortunate in my position, I often wind up in the room where conversations are happening, whether it's at a county level or a town level. And also as a resident, I live in New City. It is amazing what you find out when you actually go to the source and ask the questions and hear from the people who are making these decisions. You get such a good understanding of the process and what's actually happening. And so my greatest advice to anyone in the county is get involved, go to these meetings. Don't, you know, and I do it myself. I look on Facebook and I think I have the whole story. Yeah. Do your research, like go talk. And I will say, I'm in Clarkstown, so I'm most familiar with Clarkstown, but Supervisor Homan does a great job. He's always, having coffee with the supervisor at the local coffee maker in New City, or doing live call-in shows. Or he's very available, and I think that's the same in all of our towns. They make themselves available. So ask the questions.
I'm so sorry.
And maybe just to add on to that a little bit, I think also some of the onus is also on us to do the outreach. And I think the economic summit that we all partnered on last year, are going out. And I always kind of say, and I'll throw it out there again, we're always available to come out to a chamber, to a Rotary, to a town meeting, if people want to learn more. Because I know one of my pet peeves is when I hear somebody characterize economic development or the IDA and kind of just puts out wrong information. And it's not to be malicious. They just don't understand what we do. Yeah. And I think the public is very important to that. I kind of make it a personal philosophy that if, I get a resident will call and, why are you doing X, Y, Z? And call them back and have a chat. And it's surprising how people, once they get a better feel for it, then they're better about it.
Yeah. There tends to be a lot of pushback, I feel like. Whenever there's development of any kind, people don't want change, especially here. They've moved here because they love the suburban feel of the way it is. They don't like things getting developed, especially now they feel like things are getting developed really fast. What would you say to people about that who
Yeah.
are very NIMBY and don't want anything to change? I mean, ultimately, especially because of our proximity, it's going to happen no matter what.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think that also plays into why it's important for them to get involved. But if you
Absolutely.
can touch on that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on that we're 40 minutes from Manhattan. We're going to be growing, right? There's no way around that. But it's structuring that growth and being a part of that growth. What do we want our community to look like? It's not just all willy-nilly. We have the opportunity right now to really develop what we want here. And getting involved and telling us what you want. I know when we had that event last May, and I think we're planning another one for this May, we encourage the community to come out, let us know what you want. That's what we want to hear, and then we want to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's one of the more, exactly. That's exactly the key thing is being a little proactive about it, both the public and all of us, to have a vision of what you want your community to be. Because, and you're right, Beth, there's a public hearing at a town, and you'll get 5 anti-people that will come out. Meanwhile, most people support it or don't know a lot about it or whatever, but the 5 voices are the ones that are heard.
Yeah,
and
the other
there's an
people don't want to
impression.
speak out. Yeah, they get
So,
nervous.
it's important to have that other voice at least balances things. Again, I'll be the first to say, like at the IDA, we're not all knowing. We don't have some crystal ball that says here's the perfect path for Rockland. But one of the things we do have to look at, and I know we've talked about this, Jenna, as far as saying, look at one proposed project. Okay, what's the alternative? Is the alternative no housing? Or do you guide the kind of housing you want to see developed? Do you want no industrial development, or what do you want? It's easy to say no, but you should have something, well, no, but what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's good for people to hear you take that feedback. This is not, and you both are Rockland residents. I'm a Rockland resident as well. I'm trying to get her to become a Rockland resident. Slowly but surely, I'm getting
I'm
her
in that
there.
pool of can't
Can't afford it,
live here.
right?
Yeah, so.
We're working on it, I promise. But we're investing in our own home, you know? And so having the public come out and say, you get to own a part of this too. We're taking your feedback. We're giving you the alternatives. We're letting you know what the options are. Let's all do this together and grow.
Yeah.
So that's, again, the IDA is really well positioned to do that. You guys do a phenomenal job at that. And now after this conversation, you're going to get more phone calls. So you'll make more friends in the
We
neighborhood.
love to talk. That's great.
That's a good thing. That's a
Honestly,
good
it's
thing.
better if they do call you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
we encourage. I mean, we're always picking up the phone, and we both love to talk. So call us.
Okay, good. We'll share that phone number afterwards.
Flash it at the bottom.
Exactly. But what do you think is still missing? If you had your choice, what would you bring here to Rockland?
Great
good
question. Well, I think we need some more innovation, like research, development kind of industry that's ever growing. That's just a really good thing to have in your community, high-paying jobs. And so that's one area that I think we'd like to attract more of.
Maybe more being very specific, and I'm glad you answered this. That gave me more time to think. I'd like to see, just one area, it's not a be-all, end-all. I'd like to see more waterfront development. I think our waterfront is still a potentially untapped potential boon to the county. And I think, it's often overlooked that Rockland and stretches of Rockland have long, uninterrupted stretches where you have access to the river, be it Stony Point, Havistraw. Nyack's a little trickier given its the development there. Piermont does take advantage of it. Just using some examples, I don't mean to leave anybody out, but I think it takes a little vision to have the kind of development there that brings commerce from the river, but also to the river.
Yeah.
And the nice thing here is we don't have to be smart. We don't have to be creative. We just have to look at what works elsewhere and say, let's make a commitment to see that kind of development.
And that brings recreation too.
Right.
So again, that whole built environment, the live, work, play model. And I think we do kind of throw that term out a lot. How would you define the live, work, play model? So when people are hearing this, they can say, okay, this is what they mean by that.
Right. Well, I really like that, so in New City, like my husband and I in the summer, we can walk to great restaurants. We, like that, we don't have to go anywhere to have a good time. We don't have to go anywhere to meet friends. We can do that right in our local community. I love that aspect of Rockland. I also love our proximity to the city. I think I always heard that our train ride on this side was 2 seats and so, so hard. And we would always go to Tarrytown, so that was just 1 seat. So I was like, is this true? So my husband and I were like, we're doing it. It was fine. Like, it was easy. I was like, oh, we have great transportation in Rockland. I mean, I granted, I'm not doing it every morning.
You're not commuting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, like the idea that we are in 40 minutes can be in Manhattan or on a farm is really an amazing thing. But bringing that all home, bringing that into your local community, your downtown, can you do everything you need to do on the weekend in your downtown? That's such a nice way to live.
And it's such a blessing when you have that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people can take it for granted, but as somebody who has to commute to work,
Yes.
and the domino effect it has on my life, it is such a great, blessing to have that.
Yeah. It just really makes it's a great quality of life. And we're really we have the Playhouse in Nyack. Like, we have great local theater. We have great,
lots of art,
expanding
lots of
on
culture.
all of those things. And it really, that drives community. Like, when you are in a space where the community comes together to put on a play and the restaurant next door has a deal for, dinner before and all that, you feel that. Like, you feel welcome there. You want to be there. It's inspiring. And I think we have a lot of that in Rockland. I'd like to see us expand on that.
I think one of our blessings is that's often overlooked is our cultural diversity.
Oh, yeah.
Here. I mean, again, at the risk of overlooking some location, but you have like downtown Haverstraw. It's got such character given the population and the type of what it offers. And then you have Nyack with its arts. And again, each of them share these elements, but Nyack is very uniquely different. Pearl River has a lot of cultural elements there. That's fun.
Yeah.
And in a couple of weeks is going to be a really fun place to
sure
be.
is.
Sorry, I dated myself on something. I know you said not to do that. But the point is with that cultural diversity, I think it can create challenges at times because, the people are scared of what they don't know or is different. But I think it gives us such opportunity to really make, Rockland and maintain that Rockland is a fun, diverse place to live.
Yeah. And I think when you embrace everyone in your community, everyone rises together.
Absolutely.
There's no room for one group to rise over another. We're all in this together. Your community is your community, and that's true wherever you are.
That's true.
You guys really are like beaming when you talk about Rockland. And I love that because I have pride living in Rockland as well. I grew up here, and there's just something special. And, we've joked about this before, Beth and I. When Rockland gets you, it sucks you in and it never lets you go. But there's a reason for that.
There is.
And it's everything that we've talked about today, the proximity to having our own cultural diversity and diffusion, but having the proximity to experience even more of it in New York City and feeling like an extension of that.
Yes.
And bringing all of that back to our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for us when thinking of decisions, when thinking of development, when thinking of economic opportunities, to think of that too, and to know that we're all buying in together. We're all investing in this together. So if we wrap up here and there's just one thing you want people to take away from the IDA, this conversation, what would it be?
I'd say that we are really an extension of what the community wants, and our goal is to help fulfill that.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I would say that, our incentives are temporary, but that investment is permanent. And that's really what we're going for. It's that long-term growth of the county is what we're trying to do.
Those sounded like 2 bumper stickers. I really like that. That was really good.
Great answers. Great answers. Well, I guess, is anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up? Yeah.
Any questions about the IDA or what we do, call us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, we will flash that phone number.
Yes.
But we can't thank you enough.
Yes.
You guys have been an amazing
You guys
guest.
were great.
And
Thank you.
feel like you will be coming back as we continue to bring business here and talk about housing and revitalize our downtowns, make those walkable cities, those transit-oriented developments.
Yes.
So I hope you're ready and willing to come back and
Anytime.
hang out with us. All
Anytime while we're
right.
here.
All right. That was a quick response. We're good.
I know, right?
All right. Well, thank you so much. You want to close it out?
Well, and thanks for joining us once again on the Rockland Roundtable podcast.